I wrote my first book at the age of 19 years old. I started writing it, then I self published it when I was 20 years old. And I always say if there's one thing that has really, really changed my life, like the number one thing that has catapulted my life and especially my career to a next level, it has definitely been writing a book. So, in today's episode, I'm going to be sharing with you how you can do the same and how that can also change your life. Welcome to the ultimate guide to writing your very own book. Now, you are watching this episode, you're watching this video because you have been thinking about writing a book perhaps for a few days, weeks, months, or even years. It's been something that's been on your mind. It's something that you've been wanting to do. Perhaps you've already started. And in today's episode, I'm going to be sharing with you what are the steps that you need to take in order to make that happen. I'm also going to be sharing with you how there's actually two ways to do it, right? So you have two paths that you can follow when it comes to writing a book. And also, I want you to understand that writing a book is one thing, but publishing it is another thing, right? So we're going to be diving into how to write it, but then also how to get it out there in the physical realm. As I mentioned at the start of this video, I wrote my first book at 19 years old. The way that this happened, the way that this came about was that I was 19. I had finished high school 2 years before that, right? I was at the time living with a friend of mine in an apartment. I was working full time at a call center in the evenings, and in the morning I was working at a pharmacy as a cashier. And I just remembered that it had been 2 years already, almost 2 years, that I was living that life, right? The life of an adult, but an adult that did not have a purpose. Right. So I was just kind of surviving, paying my bills. And I remember at that point thinking to myself, I can do this for the rest of my life. Like, it's been almost 2 years and I'm exhausted of this routine. I cannot do the 9 to 5 every single day. I can't, desperately wait for the weekends to come. So I was already, thinking about what can I do? I was thinking about going to university or doing something else, finding another job. And that's when the idea of starting a business came about. But I didn't really know what kind of business I wanted to start. And at the same time that that was happening, I got one day, I remember I was in the shower and I got the inspiration of, I'm going to write a book. It just came to me. And I believe, there's this saying that I really love that says, when the student is ready, the teacher shall appear. I believe that that's true. And I believe that when you look for answers, the universe will send them to you. So I remember that I was at that time thinking about what I was going to do. So one day in the shower, that idea, that inspiration came to my mind. And I believe that it did because I've always been good at writing. I've always loved writing. So I think that one of the first things you need to take under consideration if you want to write a book is, do you actually like to write? Do you actually like writing? Is it something that you enjoy doing? Do you like the process of it? For me, writing had always been my therapy in a way. I started writing diaries and, my journals when I was like probably 11 years old, right? So I loved to write. So I remember getting out of the shower. I got dressed and I went in the living room and all my friends were there. And I told them, guys, guess what? And everyone was like, what? I was like, I'm going to write a book. And I remember everyone started laughing and they were like, you, Alex, you're going to write a book? Okay, sure. And 9 months later, the book was out. Now, how did I do this in 9 months? How was I able to accomplish it? Now, first thing I want to say is that the reason why I said I'm going to do it in 9 months is because I said, look, it takes 9 months to create life, right? To have a child, to create a child within you. So I think that in 9 months, I can create a book. Like, it's much easier to create a book than to create life. So I said, let me take 9 months of my life to create this, my baby, this book. So this was, just to give you a little timeline, it was the month of August of 2009, the month of August of 2009. There's three special events that happen in those next few months. The first one is, I think, a few weeks after that, I was not feeling very good. I was feeling a little bit depressed. I was feeling confused. That's why, I was trying to find my purpose and everything. So I remember going to the doctor, and the doctor said that I had the beginnings of depression. I was in a burnout, basically. So he gave me a sick leave, and I believe the sick leave was 6 months off of work, that I couldn't go to work. And I remember I took that as a blessing in disguise, because I said, well, that gives me 6 months to just write. Let me interrupt this episode for a second, because I have something very, very important to share with you. We have our exclusive masterclass, The Art of Womanhood and the Science of Having It All, coming up real soon. Now, what's very, very exciting about this masterclass is that it's completely free. All you need to do is sign up, leave your name and email address. The link is in the description below this video. It will also appear on the screen. During this free masterclass, which doesn't happen often, it really happens once in a blue moon that I do it live, I will be sharing with you how you can master the art of womanhood and the science of having it all, meaning that you will find the balance between your feminine and masculine. We all have these two energies within us, and I think that especially nowadays, it's very difficult to find that balance. But once you do, once you understand the secrets to becoming really the alchemist of your life, everything changes and you become a magnet to all the things that you desire and all the things that you dream of. So don't forget to go sign up now. Spots are limited, so you don't want to miss it. Now, back to the episode. So the first thing that was very important in this process is that now all of a sudden I had time. So I remember that I would wake up every morning, I would go and sit in front of the computer, and I would write from 9 to 5, as if I was going to work, right? As if I had a job and I was going to work. So the first thing, you're going to need to write a book. Unfortunately, I know a lot of people don't want to hear that, but you're going to need time, right? It takes time. So maybe you're going to have to sacrifice your weekends, right? So maybe on the weekends, instead of seeing family and going out with friends, you're gonna have to do that. Maybe you're gonna have to sacrifice your evenings. After work, instead of watching TV and watching your shows, you're gonna have to be writing. So you're gonna need time. Another thing I remember that I started doing at the time is that on Fridays and Saturdays, because of my age, because I was 19, we used to go out a lot with friends. Like every weekend we used to throw a party, or we used to go out. So I remember that I stopped doing that and I would write instead. And I would stay up till like 3, 4 a.m. in my bedroom writing, because I would, I said to myself, if I was out partying, I would be up till this time. So might as well stay up till this time instead of alcohol, drink coffee, right? And write. And I still remember up to this day hearing my friends coming back from the club or the party at like 3 or 4 a.m. And I would hear them in the living room, laughing and joking and talking about the night. And I was still up writing. So the first thing you need is time. You're going to need time. The second thing you need to write a book is you need information. You need knowledge. You need to get a lot of knowledge. So at that point, when I made the decision that I wanted to write a book, I started to read books, right? So before that, I wasn't really an avid reader at all. Like even when I was in high school and they would give us book to read, I would just read the back of the book and I would just like resume that in my paper. I would never read. But all of a sudden I started reading a lot. I would go to the library. So not just to the bookstore to buy books, I would go literally to the library and spend my entire Sundays or Saturdays just going through books and reading a lot. Because the reality is that if you want to write a book, it's because you want to add value to the world, right? So you want to add value to the world, whether it be through a nonfiction or a fiction book, right? But either way, I think that you need to read. You need to learn the different types of writings. You need to, get familiar with your subject. For me, it was going to be a personal development book. It was going to be a book about my life lessons and the things that I had been through, because even though I was young at the time, I had been through a lot of things. So I wanted to share that, in the book. So that's just the second thing you need to read a lot. You need to consume a lot of content, right? And the third thing is you're going to have to find and create your dream team. When I started writing the book in August, September of 2009, as I was writing it, I was realizing, I was like, okay, I think that I need someone who's going to proofread this. Like, I can write in English, but I'm not like, Shakespeare here. So I'm going to need someone to proofread this. Now, at the time, I was like, where can I find someone who does this kind of thing? So I went on, I don't even know if it still exists up to this day, but Craigslist. Remember Craigslist? So I went on Craigslist and I looked at the section of editors and proofreaders. And I found someone, her name is Ariane. Up to this day, we still talk. We worked together for many, many years on proofreading things, but she was the one who proofread the first version of the book, Beyond Beauty. And she was such an angel. And I always tell her that. She was literally an angel sent from heaven. She had just moved from Vancouver to Montreal, like the month before that. And I remember I said, okay, let's meet at a cafe. It was Java U Cafe. We went and sat down and I said, okay, I need the book to come out next month. I think at that time it was the month of November and I wanted to have it ready before. And then she said, okay, wait a minute. We can do it in a month because here are the steps. First, we're going to have to proofread the book. I'm going to have to reread the book. Then I'm going to send it back to you and you're going to have to reread it and we're going to make sure everything is fine. Then we need to format the book. This means that the pages need to all fill so that we have to know the size of the book and then we have to do that. And then we also need the cover of the book. But it's not just the photo of the front. We need the side cover. We need the back cover. We need the inside little, flips if you have the little flips. So there was a whole process of editing and of books that I didn't know about that thank God Ariane was there to explain to me how it all works. So I remember after our meeting, it was in November of 2009, I said, okay, now I know what are the next steps. And so I continue. So again, I want you to remember, you need time. So you're going to have to make time. You need information. So you need to be knowledgeable. You need knowledge about the topic that you're going to write about. And then you need a dream team. After Ariane, another person that I hired was a photographer. So we did the cover of the book. We actually did it twice because the first one I didn't like the photo shoot and the photos that we had. So we did it again. And then the third person, it was Nikki, my good friend now, Nikki, who for years was my graphic designer. I found her just for the cover of the book, and then we continued working together. So the cover of the book had to be created by someone. The side of the book, the back of the book, everything had to be designed. And so in the next few months, I finished writing the book. Again, needed a lot of time, needed a lot of knowledge. I spent countless hours writing and reading. That was my whole life for 9 months. Then again, we did the photo shoot, we did the cover, we did the formatting. There's a lot of back and forth always. And one thing that I highly suggest that you do if you want to have your book done and written is you absolutely need to set a time limit on it. Because if not, it's never ending. Right? If not, you're never going to be happy with the book. You're always going to want to add another chapter and another thing and another paragraph and another section. There's always going to be more that you're going to want to add, but you're going to have to set a date. So for me, I remember thinking I had the idea of the book in August, so I have to finish it before August. I have to release it before the month of August of 2010. So the book was released, self-published in July of 2010. It was a month. It was like 11 months, but I wrote it in less than 9 months. So those are the steps. That's the process that you need to go through in order to self-publish a book. As I said, there's another way of doing this. You can also publish with a publisher, right? But that's a whole nother game. Now, if you want to go with a publisher, and the benefits of going with a publisher is that you get to be in bookstores, right? So when you self-publish, and nowadays when you self-publish, you can go with Amazon, back in the day, I remember I had to sell it on my website. I found a printing company in Montreal where they were printing the book. I remember I went to the place to see the materials and the books and everything. And I had to buy, 10,000, and make 10,000 of the book. And I had it for many, many years in my house, the boxes. So that was a process back then. Now it's very good because you can just go through Amazon, to self-publish your book. But if you want to go with a publisher, with a major publisher, in order to have your book in different bookstores around the country or around the world, then the first thing that you're going to need is going to be a book proposal. The way that I got published in 2017, it's because a year prior, I went to a convention in Vegas that was called Author 101. And in Author 101, it was 3 days. And on the third day, you would get to meet the literary agents and publishers there. And that's where I met my literary agent. So he explained to me what were the next steps. So the next step was to create a book proposal. Right? So in a book proposal, it's not the book, the whole book that you're going to write. A lot of authors, when they send their book proposal to a literary agent or even directly to publishers, they don't even have the book finished, right? It's just the different chapters, the different parts of the book, the demographics, so who is going to buy it, how you're going to do the marketing, you know, all of these things have to be in the book proposal. And that's when you send it, and that's when you get in touch with a literary agent or with a publisher, and then they can publish your book. This process is very hands-off. Self-publishing is very hands-on. You literally have to do everything. But publishing with a publisher, getting published, that's a process where all you need is the book proposal, and then you send it, and then when the book gets picked up by a publishing house, they take care of everything, basically. Most of the time, they're going to do your photo shoot, they're going to do the back cover, front cover, they're going to do the formatting, they're going to do the editing of the book. The timeline can be much longer because they have their marketing schedule and their releases scheduled for every year, right? So they're going to place you where there's space. You don't choose the release date of your book, right? But it's another way of doing it that is also a very good way, especially if you want to be in bookstores and you want to have more visibility. So whether you want to self-publish or go with a publisher, there's the three first steps that you have to take into account. And then there's three other steps actually I'm going to share with you. So again, the first step that I shared with you is you need to have time. So make time to write the book and give yourself a limit due date. That's so important. There's people that I talk to and they've been writing their book for the past 20 years and there's still nothing, you know? So you definitely want to give yourself a limit due date. The second thing is you need to learn. You need to read a lot. Whether you're writing fiction or nonfiction, it doesn't matter. You need to have information. You need to read other authors that are writing something similar. You know, you need to see the styles of writing, right? So it's very important to read a lot, consume a lot of books, right? Very important. Then you need to build your dream team. You need people that are going to make life easier for you. You're not going to be able to be a graphic designer and then a professional editor and a photographer. You're not going to do all these things. You are the writer and you need other people to do all of these things for you. Then there's three other steps. These are important when it comes to self-publishing. But then here, these three other steps are also very, very important. When you're writing the book, you need to know approximately how many pages you want to have. And I would say always starts, that's how I always do it when I write books. You always start with the sections. So the parts, you know, part 1, part 2, part 3. So first of all, how many parts will there be in your book? And then how many chapters will there be? Once you establish that, that's when you can develop. So I remember for me, when I first wrote Beyond Beauty, the first thing was the 3 parts. Okay, so I need and you can choose 4 or 5, it doesn't matter. But I divided it in 3 important sections, the book, right? And then the chapters, and I had the names of each chapter, and I would develop each chapter, sometimes not even in order. If there was one day where I felt inspired to develop, I don't know, I'm saying the misinterpretation of love, let's say, which is one of the chapters in the book. If I felt like developing this chapter, I would spend the day writing on this chapter. There was another day, perhaps I wanted to develop on the gift of beauty, that chapter, which I believe is the last one in the book, then I would develop that chapter. But you just need the chapters. It's like creating an album, right? When artists create albums, they're gonna have the songs, right? You need to have, the chapters are like the songs and the lyrics is what you develop in, okay? So very important for you to know the different parts and the different chapters to start off. From there, that's when you can go and you can develop everything. Then you need to also know the style of the book. So the vibe of the book. What vibe do you want to give off? Do you want to give off, you know, the colors, let's say? Do you want something to be more feminine and maybe more in the pinks? Or do you want something to be more luxury? So maybe in like dark purples, that's the colors you're going to use. The writing, so what kind of writing do you want to use? You know, the fonts. I want you to already start imagining that and start imagining the cover. Once you have an idea for the cover, try to like find pictures online or something so that you can have them around you. If let's say you have a vision board, put them on your vision board just so that you can already surround yourself with the idea so that it becomes more real. Okay, so try to find already the ideas. That's just, honestly, it's very important, but it's just going to motivate you so much more to want to finish the book because you're going to already have the vision for it, right? So that's very important. And then the last thing is going to be the marketing. We live in a day and age where marketing is extremely important. It's one thing to write a book, to publish it, but then it's another thing to sell it. You know, who's going to buy it? Who's going to read it? So you need to have a marketing strategy, a good marketing strategy where you want your book to not just be a book, but to kind of make people want to be part of it, you know, part of like a movement. I remember for me with Beyond Beauty was be beyond beauty, like become beyond beauty. We went on a tour for the book. When the first version was released, it was a high school tour because it was a book more targeted towards young girls. You know, later on, when in 2017 we published, you know, the book in bookstores and everything, that's when I did a conference tour, a world conference tour. So try to think of ways and what can you do to market the book, to promote it for people to know about this book. Because again, it's one thing to write a book, to publish it, but then it's another thing to have people read it. And you want people to know about your work and to read about what you had to share. So these are the 6 different steps that you need to take in order to write a book. I would say that the first 2 steps, once you pass through the first 2 steps, you'll be fine. Once you find the time and then you gather all the knowledge, you'll be fine. Then the rest is all mechanics. The first 2 are the most difficult ones. You need to give yourself a limit due date, as I said. That's so important because if you don't, it's very possible that you're not going to either ever finish or in a very long time finish your book, okay? And remember, you know, in the moments that you're gonna feel discouraged, where you feel like, why am I doing this? Is anyone gonna write the book? Just know that this is gonna be your legacy. You know that this is going to be a beautiful legacy that you're going to leave. Know also that you're doing something that only like 1% of the people in the world are doing. So that's an amazing thing. You know, think about the fact that your grandchildren and great grandchildren are going to one day have not only pictures of you and memories of you, but they're going to have a book literally that they can read and learn about you, about either your knowledge or even your imagination, you know, if it's a fiction book. So it's a beautiful thing what you're doing. I highly suggest that you keep on keeping on. And as I said at the start of this episode, it has changed my life. There's nothing that I recommend more than to writing a book. And I know it will change yours. So if you like this episode, don't forget to like it. Don't forget to share with all of your friends in the comment section. Let me know what other ultimate guides would you like for me to do and to share with you here. I would love to read from you. So that is it for today, and I will see you very soon.